Good evening, everyone. I'm Ankit, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis, which goes live every day at 4 p.m. on StudyIQ IS English channel. Now, I watched a pretty funny thing yesterday on internet, so I thought I'd share it with you. You know, Pakistani people of Pakistani origin, they were protesting against India in the Portugal's Lisbon city, right? Lisbon is the capital of Portugal. So people of Pakistan, they were protesting against India in front of the Indian embassy there, right? So you know what Indians did? They did this. So they displayed this banner in front of the protesters saying that Operation Sindoor is not even over yet. So this was the very savage reply on behalf of our foreign service officers. Some of you, I assume, you must be aspiring for IFS service officer, and you know what you need to do to be in their place. You need to watch these sessions on a daily basis, right? So on that note, let us start with our today's discussion. We will be covering important news and articles that I've picked up from the Indian Express newspaper. You know, the first article of the day, I'll be talking about India's nuclear energy push. Now, if you have read the budget, in the budget, Madam Finance Minister, she highlighted that India would actually double down on more developments in the nuclear power sector, because nuclear power is a comparatively that kind of power which emits less amount of greenhouse gases, and also India's share in terms of its energy generation, the nuclear power stands right at around 1.5 to 2% of its total energy generation. India wants to increase this by 2047, and for that, India wants to deploy what is known as small modular reactors. So many announcements were made in the budget, but you understand, to implement these kind of measures, you need certain policy changes, right? So we'll discuss what kind of policy changes our government preparing right now in order to double down on India's nuclear energy push. Now, this is relevant from GS paper 3, particularly infrastructure as well as science and technology perspective, right? In the second article, we'll be covering a very important piece of geography that is in the world, that is Suez Canals. Why is Suez Canal in news? And we'll also try to emphasize about the Red Sea. Red Sea is the region from where you actually travel to reach the Suez Canal, which is located in Egypt. So we'll try to understand the geographical locations, the factors why Suez Canal is in news in our today's discussion. Now, this is relevant from places and news perspective, and Red Sea and Suez Canal becomes important because a question in 2024 appeared on Red Sea. So we'll also be trying to solve that particular question in our today's discussion. Now, the third article of the day will be covering about the electronics component scheme, because according to the Union IT Minister, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, he has highlighted that the government in 2 months back, it introduced the electronic component scheme. Now, most of the companies that have filed to get benefits under the scheme, these are small and medium enterprises. So we'll try to understand what are the features of this scheme and why is it, or why was it introduced by the government in the first place. Now, this actually builds upon our discussion that we had on Saturday regarding the value addition in India, which is an important part of manufacturing sector. So in that regard, electronics component scheme also becomes important, and the relevant paper here again is GS paper 3. In the fourth article, we'll be covering about a disease known as shingles, as it was reported that the vaccines that you use for preventing shingles is quite effective when it comes to countering dementia. So what is dementia? What is shingles? We'll try to understand in our today's discussion. Again, any kind of a disease, they become important from GS paper 3 perspective, right? In the fifth article, we'll be covering about a very important location in the state of Jharkhand, that is Parasnath Hills. Parasnath Hills is in news because of the dispute between people belonging to Jain community and people belonging to Santhal community, as both of these people consider this site as a sacred site. So what was the issue? Why is this site so sacred? We'll understand this in our today's discussion, and we'll top off our today's discussion by understanding the process how you can rename the city. And we can understand many important cities in India like Prayagraj, like Ayodhya, their district's name have been changed in recent times. So the constitutional provision, the legal provision which allows the government to change the names of Indian cities, that we'll understand in our today's discussion, and this is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective. Parasnath Hills is something relating to art and culture, therefore the relevant paper is GS paper 1. So these are the 6 articles that we are going to cover. Good evening, Pratyaksh Verma, good evening, Rishi, Amar, Shushmita, Priyalata, Naveen, Yashi, Tani, Saujanya, good to see you all. Good evening, everyone. Now, the notes of this session, as usual, will be available on my Telegram channel. This is called as ATS Live. So what you need to do, if you haven't subscribed it yet, and if you don't know where this channel is, you need to search by entering the words ATS Live in the Telegram app, and alternatively you can scan this QR code and this will take you directly to the channel, right? So with this, let us start our today's discussion with the front page news article from the today's Indian Express newspaper, and it talks about India's nuclear energy push, and government is looking to allow participation of private players in operation of nuclear power plants, and also it wants to limit the liability of equipment suppliers who are supplying the equipments while establishing the nuclear power plant. So what is this discussion? We'll try to understand in our today's discussion. Now, the context of this discussion is what you need to understand, that India has set a stage for its unprecedented opening of the civil nuclear sector. Why is it saying unprecedented opening? Because earlier, if you can understand, government of India prohibited FDI to this sector, but now it is trying to engage more and more private sector companies in manufacturing, in establishing an operation of the nuclear power plants. And with this, two likely amendments in the laws that govern the country's atomic energy sector needs to be done, and this is expected to happen in the upcoming monsoon session of the parliament. Now, this move actually followed the US government's decision to let its firm who makes nuclear equipment to perform design work and manufacturing in India. So this was a precursor of what these two developments are going to happen. Precursor means something that happens before, okay? So in that regard, let us understand this particular news. Now, earlier roadblock that actually prevented US-based companies to set up their manufacturing units in India was Part 810 of the Title 10 Conduct of Federal Regulations of the US Atomic Energy Act 1954. Now, this regulation, it allows nuclear power companies who are American-owned companies to export nuclear equipments to other countries with certain strict safeguards. What were these strict safeguards? That companies can export equipments to other countries, which includes India, but it can't manufacture any nuclear equipment or perform any nuclear design work outside of US. So this was the restrictions that was imposed on the countries, right? So companies can actually sell the equipment, but they can't manufacture or design that equipment outside India. And this was seen as a very big roadblock because India, it wants to set up small modular reactors, and this wants to be set up with US based technology, but India also wanted the US companies to manufacture these modular reactors in India. So this was essentially a roadblock that prevented US investment and US manufacturing investment in India. So this roadblock was cleared recently by the US government, especially the Department of Energy. It accorded what is known as an unprecedented regulatory clearance to the company known as Camden, which is a Holtec International company. Now, this company actually has a patented very good design of a small modular reactor, but you can understand because of the previous restrictions, it could not have manufactured these modular reactors in India, and it could not even have taken the design work in India. Now, this specific authorization which was given to the Holtec International company, now it permits the companies on a conditional basis to transfer unclassified small modular reactor technology to its regional subsidiary and also to Indian companies like Tata Consulting Engineer and Larsen and Toubro Limited. So these companies can set up now a joint venture with Holtec International and then take design and manufacturing work in India. So this one roadblock is now cleared. Now let's talk about two India related roadblocks. Now, first India related roadblock is the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010. Now, this Civil Nuclear Liability Damage Act, it provides that in case, God forbid, a nuclear incident happens in India, so in that case, not just the operators of the nuclear power plant will be responsible, but also the companies that are selling the equipment to these power plants will be responsible, and they will have to compensate the victims in terms of monetary, in terms of rehabilitation, right? So this provided for a mechanism to compensate victims of a possible nuclear accident, and in case it allocates liability and specifies the procedures so that the compensation to the victims needs to be provided. So automatically it imposes a financial burden on the companies in case a nuclear incident happens. Now the foreign vendors, particularly Japanese vendors, American vendors, they have flagged this as a disincentive to invest in India, saying that because of so much nuclear liability that will have in India, we are not looking to invest in India, and therefore this was bad news for India's nuclear sector. So the government is now considering to make an amendment in the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act, saying that it will cap the amount of liability the equipment vendors will be required to give in case of damage, both in terms of limiting the monetary exposure and also possible time frame beyond which the liability would not apply. So it wants to ease the financial burden on the companies by saying that you will not be required to pay money beyond a certain limit, and also you can't be required to pay money after a certain time frame. So this is a kind of a relaxation that government is looking to give to the American and foreign based companies who are investing in India, especially when they are providing equipments in the nuclear power plant. Understood? Now another change that the government is expected to make is the change relating to the Atomic Energy Act 1962. Now this change is aimed at opening the door for wider participation in the operation of nuclear power plants. Now currently only the public sector companies and the PSUs can actually operate nuclear power plants in India, right? So this is to be changed, and it will let the private sector also to maintain operations in the power plant, and this will enable them to enter the small modular reactor sector as the operators of power plant. As I told you, currently only the state-owned Nuclear Power Corporation of India and some joint ventures, that is NPCIL and the NTPC joint venture with NALCO, only these companies which are government owned partially or completely, they can only manage the nuclear power plant. Now it is looking to allow even the private players to operate the nuclear power plant. So these are the two changes that the government is looking to make in the next session of the parliament, that is monsoon session. Understood? Good evening Jagdish, Gaurav, Reshma, good evening Saujanya, good evening. Now moving to the second article of the day, this talks that Suez Canal is now offering 15% discount to cargo ships, but the question this article imposes, will the vessels now return to the Red Sea route? So what is this Suez Canal? What is this Red Sea route? All of this let us try to understand in our today's discussion. Now the context of this discussion is the authority which looks after Suez Canal, which is the Egyptian government owned Suez Canal Authority. It is now offering discount on the toll it charges for the ships that navigate through Suez Canal. For example, if you are traveling to National Highway in India, automatically, that is the NHAI authority, it will impose certain tolls on you. Similarly, the ships that are traveling through the Suez Canal, they need to pay certain amount of toll to the Suez Canal Authority. And now Suez Canal Authority is saying that we will offer you 15% discounts on the cargo of some cargo ships that will travel through Suez Canal. Now this underscores that there has been certain incident which has impacted the security of the Red Sea area, and because of this most of the ships now are not trying to move through Suez Canal, rather they are taking a longer route through Cape of Good Hope. So in that regard, let us discuss what is Suez Canal. Now Suez Canal is the shortest maritime route to the Mediterranean Sea from countries which are located in Arab Peninsula, in Northeast Africa, and even in Arabian Sea. So even for example, Indian ships that are traveling to Europe, they can actually take the Suez Canal route, and this will be a shorter route as compared to the longer Cape of Good Hope route. Understood? Now in this regard, it becomes important for us to understand the map of the area, right? So suppose if a ship originating from Mumbai, if it wants to reach Mediterranean Sea here, right? So it has two options. The earlier option was to take a longer route through this route, take this area and then enter the Mediterranean Sea, right? But now a shorter route, for about 150 years now, a shorter route has been created, that is through this region, through Suez Canal. So effectively you can understand the distance travelled through this shorter route is much short than compared to the Cape of Good Hope, right? So in this regard, let us understand the Suez Canal, right? Suez Canal is located here. Now this is the Middle Eastern map, and Suez Canal is located right here in the Egypt region, right? Now this is the Red Sea region. Let me change the pen color, okay? This is Red Sea. So any ship originating from Mumbai here, they can travel, enter Red Sea and then navigate through Suez Canal to enter the region of Mediterranean Sea. This is a much shorter route. Let me zoom the map again. Now this is the Suez Canal. Suez Canal is located in the Egypt region. I have told you in our previous discussion, this is the area known as Sinai Peninsula, right? Sinai Peninsula is very close to the country of Israel. Now this is the Suez Canal. Suez Canal originates in the Port Said region of Mediterranean Sea, and it ends here in the Suez region, which is in the Gulf of Aden, right? So let us understand the map of the region. Now Suez Canal, what is it? It is an artificial sea canal, which is a sea level waterway running from north to south in the Isthmus of Suez in Egypt, and it connects Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea region. Now this canal separates African continent from Asian continent. So this will be much clear from the map what I have told you, right? Sorry, this Sinai Peninsula is in Asia and the rest of Egypt is in Africa, right? So this is the Suez Canal, which is separating Sinai Peninsula in the Egypt and also the African region of Egypt, and it connects the Red Sea region to the Mediterranean Sea. Understood? Now this provides the shortest maritime route between Europe and the lands which are lying on the region of India and Western Pacific Ocean. Now this is a 150-year-old canal which was controlled earlier by British and French interests, but now in 1956 under the chairmanship or the presidency of Anwar Sadat, Egypt nationalized this canal. So the responsibility of managing and operationalizing this canal rests with Suez Canal Authority, which is an authority of the Egyptian government. So this is the history of Suez Canal. Now what you need to understand, Suez Canal effectively shortened the distance that it took for our Indian ships plying from Mumbai port. Earlier they used to take a longer route which was 19,800 kilometers long. Now they have to take a shorter route which is about 7 to 8,000 kilometers less in distance as compared to longer route. So effectively this is the region of Suez Canal which you can see from the map. Now what you need to understand is the importance of Suez Canal not just for India but also for the world. Now in terms of world, as per the IMF data, this Suez Canal accounts on an annual basis, it accounts for nearly 12 to 15% of global trade. Nearly 30% of the global container traffic, that is the traffic that happens in trade regard, it flows through this region before the Houthi attacks began on this particular Red Sea region. Now this is also a very key passage for 8 to 9% of the global energy flows. Understood? Now let us understand the background of the crisis. Now in November 2023, when Israel attacked Hamas, the other allies of Iran in the region, that is Houthis like Hezbollah, they started attacking Israel also. Similarly, Yemen-based Houthi rebels, that is a organization propelled by Iranian regime, it was began targeting commercial vessels that were believed to be linked with Israel and its key allies in the region in response to Israel's military offense in the Gaza region. Now, this attack that happened on ships plying through the Red Sea region, particularly belonging to Israel, particularly belonging to its allies like US, it actually prompted the world's major container lines or major container shipping companies to divert their ships from Red Sea, and rather they preferred to navigate through the Cape of Good Hope, which is a longer route. Now, with much of the cargo movement rerouting through the longer route, obviously the amount of toll that the Suez Canal Authority was making, it declined. Earlier they were making about $10 billion annually, now it declined to just $4 billion annually. So a loss of $6 billion for the Suez Canal Authority happened due to this attack which was conducted by Houthi rebels. Now, why was this impact so severe on the global market? You need to understand, while the Red Sea security crisis, it hit traffic and revenues for the Suez Canal, but it also led to higher shipping costs, because obviously the shipping vessels, they had to travel through a longer distances, and this voyage actually took 10 to 14 more days, and this also led to more fuel burn for the ships. So automatically these ship companies, they charge higher freight rates to the cargo deliveries, right? Similarly, longer voyages also made vessels availability a bit more difficult. Again, this had an inflationary impact on the freight rates, both because of the distance and because of the demand. The charges of freight increase, and automatically in the world trade, whenever the transportation cost increase, automatically the cost of the product increases, right? And for the vessels who are still looking to transit in the Red Sea, they had to pay more amount to the insurance companies because of the risk premium that the insurance company charge. Insurance company knew that if the ships were traveling to Red Sea, the probability of them being attacked by Houthi rebels automatically increased, and therefore insurance companies charged more premiums on the goods that were sent through these Red Sea region, and they were insured, right? So this made the routes unviable for most of the companies. Specifically, I'm talking about the Suez Canal route. Therefore, the companies, they preferred to take a longer route, that was the earlier route of Cape of Good Hope, to not let these ships being attacked by Houthi rebels. Now also this kind of a crisis is much more impactful on India. Why? Because India is heavily reliant on the Red Sea shipping route for its most of its exports to Europe, which is nearly 80% of the volume going through Europe. From India, it goes through Suez Canal, and Europe is one of the key markets for Indian products. So automatically Indian businesses, Indian exports suffered because of these restrictions. Now shifting of trade flow from Red Sea region to the route around Africa, that is through Cape of Good Hope, it impacted Indian exporters quite severely. It dented their margins because now they had to pay more money to the freight charges, and automatically the competitiveness of their goods in European markets, it reduced. And this happened because of the high rates charged for exports, and much of India's trade, it is dependent on overseas shippers and foreign flag commercial vessels. So in that case also India has no say in what kind of a route these ship companies would take to deliver their goods to Europe, right? So this is the reason why it impacted India so much. First is because of Europe is a key market for Indian goods, and when Indian goods, they are traveling through longer distances, automatically the transportation cost would be higher, and the cost of the Indian goods in the European market automatically increased. So this is how Indian exports suffered a lot more as compared to other exports. Now let us understand what is the recent development which is happening in this regard. Now the Suez Canal Authority, it reached out to 25 major shipping companies around the world and offered them that if they bring their vessels through the Red Sea region, the Suez Canal Authority will offer them discounts on the toll charges, right? Now this has come after a recent development or a positive development that has happened in the region. That is, we understood US President right now or earlier was on the visit to Middle Eastern region, and in that regard US has signed a ceasefire agreement with the Houthi rebels. In order for that, Houthi rebels will not attack US origin ships in the Red Sea region, but Houthi rebels have maintained that they will continue to attack Israeli origin, and the ships that are delivering goods to Israeli ports, Houthis will continue to attack them. So this is a positive development according to the Suez Canal Authority, and to lure ships into using the Suez Canal, they are offering them discounts on the toll charges, right? Now, in this regard, I told you there is a positive development in the region of Red Sea, right? So in this regard, Red Sea also becomes important. So let us quickly deal with the geography of Red Sea. Now, Red Sea is a semi-enclosed region which is an inlet of the Indian Ocean between the continents of Asia and Africa. So to make things simpler, you enter from Asia here through Gulf of Eden, and then you enter through a water body known as Bab el Mandeb, and when you cross Bab el Mandeb, this is the water body known as Red Sea, right? And through Red Sea only you have to navigate if you have to enter the Gaza Strip region. Now here you can see there are two different gulf which is originating in the Red Sea. These are called as Gulf of Suez, through Suez Canal is here, and another gulf that travels to Israeli port here, that is known as Gulf of Aqaba, right? Pardon my pronunciation, it is Aqaba or Aqaba, I don't know. Okay. Now moving back to the Red Sea, right? Now the features or geographical features of Red Sea is that it is connected to Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean through Gulf of Eden and through a narrow strait of Bab el Mandeb, right? I told you, sorry, Gulf of Eden is here and Bab el Mandeb is this narrow piece of land which you need to navigate through to enter Red Sea from the Arabian Sea region, okay? Now the northeastern point of the Red Sea, it bifurcates into two different areas in the Sinai Peninsula region, that is through Gulf of Aqaba and Gulf of Suez, where it is connected with the Mediterranean Sea via the famous Suez Canal. Understood? So this is the features of the Red Sea that you needed to know about. Now also important from the Red Sea perspective is the bordering countries, right? So from this map what you understand, countries like Saudi, countries like Yemen, here African countries like Egypt, Eritrea, Djibouti as well as Ethiopia are the countries that share their boundary with the Red Sea region. So naturally Yemen, Saudi, Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea and Djibouti are the countries. So I'll tell you a mnemonic which will be easier for you to remember: Ye, So as well as Seed. Okay. Ye, So is Yemen, Saudi, Seed is Sudan, Eritrea, Egypt, and Djibouti, right? So these are the countries that share borders with Red Sea region. Also, there are some famous islands located in the Red Sea, that is Tiran Island, which is located near the mouth of Gulf of Aqaba, and Shadwan Island, which is located close to the entrance of Gulf of Suez. So these are the important islands which are located in the region. Similarly, it is also geographically one of the world's most warmest sea in the region. Why? It has some of the world's hottest and saltiest seawater owing to the high evaporation which is very much prevalent, because this area consists of a lot of desert, and because of this the amount of heat and the temperature that prevails in the region is quite high. Because of that, high evaporation happens even in the water bodies, that is through Red Sea, and because of that salinity levels of Red Sea is quite high. And another factors that contribute to its salinity is the low amount of rainfall or precipitation, and also there is no significant rivers or streams that drains into the sea. So automatically whatever water is remaining, it is getting drained out because of its high evaporation and less amount of rainfall. Now the name of Red Sea itself, it is derived from the color change that is observed in the waters of Red Sea. Normally the Red Sea is of intense blue-green color, and occasionally it is populated by extensive blooms of algae, Trichodatium erythraeum, which upon drying off, it turns this sea into a reddish brown color, and because of this particular algae, the name Red Sea was given to this water body. Understood everything? Any doubt in Red Sea or Suez Canal? If you need to ask, you can ask now. Yes, axis of resistance against US and Israel, that is Houthi, Hamas and Hezbollah. Now let's see if you are able to solve this PYQ. This appeared in last year's prelims, right? It is about Red Sea, and obviously this question was asked because of violence that was occurring in Red Sea. So they did not ask a mapping question, they asked a geographical question. See how UPSC is smart, right? Yes, अब तो आंसर पता ही होगा ना, मैंने बता दिया है, ऑप्शन सी इज द राइट आंसर. Now another question, in 2014 a question appeared on Turkey, but you understand now UPSC won't ask questions regarding to Turkey. So I have curated this question relating to Egypt. Yes, option B is the right answer. Only Sarang has given the answer. Where are others? Reshma. Any living creatures in Red Sea? Sorry, I don't have that information. Maybe fishes must be there. The fishes who are available in saline water, maybe them, obviously. Now let us move to the third article. This one I have picked up from 11th page of the Indian Express newspaper, and it talks about that government has received 70 applications. 80% of these applications have come from MSMEs for the electronics component scheme. So our today's discussion naturally would be about electronics component scheme. Now the Minister of IT, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, has highlighted that the government has received over 70 applications for companies who want to come under the electronic component manufacturing scheme. Now the majority of these applicants, that is 80% of them, are small and medium enterprises. So in this regard, let us understand, see, before any scheme you need to understand the reason why government bought that scheme, right? So let us understand the reason first. Now, Indian electronics manufacturing sector particularly witnesses lack of domestic scales, because India, although is a major assembler of mobile phones, but when it comes to manufacturing of electronic components that goes inside your mobile phone, these are not available in India. So India's current capacity is only to manufacture 10% of total electronics that goes into the electronics which are assembled in India, like mobile phones, like laptops, computers, etc. Right? So therefore, there is a huge demand supply gap in the electronic component sector, because India's current domestic production of electronic items is how much? 10.75%. I'm talking about electronic components, not mobiles and laptops, right? So India's current domestic production is $10.75 billion, and its potential for export demand is $140 billion. So therefore, there is a domestic consumption gap of $100 billion that needs to be produced in India, and rather for that, India is dependent on what? It is dependent on import to fulfill this gap, right? So therefore, India has a lot of import dependency. For example, semiconductors, these are manufactured in which countries? Like Taiwan, like South Korea. Other important components like your mobile display, PCBs over which the transistors are embedded, these come from China. So therefore, India has a huge import dependency, and electronic imports are India's second largest category of imports, only after crude oil, as 75% of India's electronic production, it depends on import components. And also government earlier had tried to make India a hub for electronic components manufacturing, but this did not happen. Why? Because this sector has a high investment to turnover ratio. For example, if you want to assemble smartphones in India, for every 1 rupee investment that you make in this sector, it generates a return of 20 rupees for the investors, right? But in electronic component scheme, for every 1 rupees investment, it only generates revenue of 2 to 4 rupees. So if you were an investor, obviously you'd invest in this kind of an activity, not this, because this is paying higher interest or higher return. Therefore, this is the reason why India has become a major player when it comes to assembly of smartphones, but not a major player when it comes to manufacturing of these smaller electronic components. So to deal with this kind of a lacuna, government has come up with an electronic components manufacturing scheme, and approximately 23,000 crore rupees will be provided to these companies who register under the scheme as an incentive. Now, this is a similar incentive as compared to the PLI schemes. PLI schemes also, we have seen the companies who have registered under PLI schemes, they get certain incentives from the government. Similarly, the companies now who will manufacture these electronic components, they will also get incentive. Now, this scheme is spread over 6 years. So this total amount of incentives will be divided for 6 years period. And this, through this, government is targeting to localize manufacturing of components in India. Now, this scheme not just will provide India higher value addition in the manufacturing sector, but it will also generate production worth of 4.56 lakh crore and bring an incremental investment in India approximately of 59.5 thousand crore rupees. So in terms of investment, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of employment, this is a very good scheme. Now, the key features of the scheme, that it targets certain electronic components. Now, the scheme will focus on engaging in production of key components that are correctly included. This includes display modules. Display modules will import from countries like South Korea. Similarly, sub-assembly camera modules, these are also imported from countries like Japan, like South Korea, like China. Printed circuit boards. Printed circuit board assemblies are the assemblies over which the components like cameras, like display modules, they are embedded in the smartphones. Now, for this, we are dependent on import from China. Similarly, batteries are also important. These needs to be imported from, again, countries like China, and all those smaller components like resistors, like capacitors, these are also needs to be imported right now. So government is trying to target mostly the manufacturing of these smaller components because they form a larger share of total imports. Now, the employment creation through the scheme, that it will lead to 91,600 direct jobs over 6 years and more than 2 lakh jobs which will be indirect jobs. So therefore, it will also lead to higher employment creation in India. Another factor that you need to analyze is the increase in local value addition. Now, production linked incentive scheme for smartphones and manufacturing in India, they have been quite successful, specifically attracting global companies like Apple, like Samsung to set up their factories in India. But despite of this assembly of smartphones, we see the local value addition only happens up to a level of 15 to 20% in India. So, for example, rupees 100 worth of mobile phones or 100 crore worth of mobile phones, if they are being manufactured in India, only 15 to 20 crores worth of money is actually added in India. Rest, about 85 to 80 crore rupees you have to spend on import. So that is why our import dependence even on assembling the mobile phones are quite high. Now, government wants to increase this to about at least 30 to 40% of value addition in India. This is what the government is targeting, which is approximately 2 times the number that is existing today. Also, what you need to understand, that the structures of incentives are categorized in a way that there are 3 different categories. First is an operational incentive. Now, this will be based on net incremental sales, similar to the PLI model. What is net incremental sale? Suppose if a smartphone company, they applied for PLI scheme, and before applying to the PLI scheme, that company was manufacturing 50,000 mobile phones every year. But after getting to PLI scheme, this company starts manufacturing how much? 2 lakh mobile phones. So they will get benefit not on 2 lakh mobile phones, rather 1.5 lakh mobile phones that they are manufacturing extra after being coming into PLI scheme. Similarly, net incremental sales also will be the criteria based on which the companies will be given the incentive under this scheme. That is, the amount of sale, more sale that is happening, they will get the incentive. Similarly, companies will also get incentives based on their amount of capital expenditure. For example, they must be setting newer factories. For that, they will have to invest in machines, they will have to invest in setting up of these factories, and this entails the spending that is called as capital expenditure. So even on this amount, they will get the incentive. And there is also a hybrid model which will combine both of these factors, that is operational factors like incremental sales and also the capex or capital expenditure incentives. Both will be combined and an incentive will be given. So these are the three kinds of incentives which the government is offering to the companies who will be enrolled under the scheme. And which companies are which companies will be eligible to get benefits? Both greenfield and brownfield investment are eligible. I hope you understand the difference between greenfield and brownfield. If you not, please ask me right now. Similarly, foreign companies can participate by two ways. Either they can transfer the technology to an Indian company, or they can form a joint venture with the domestic firm, which using the technology, the domestic firm will conduct the manufacturing. So both of these companies will be getting the benefits under the scheme. Okay. Any doubts? What is greenfield and brownfield? I hope you understand the difference. So if you do, let's see if you are able to solve this practice question. Operational incentive, right? This said that based on incremental sales. Suppose if company A registers under this scheme, and earlier this company used to sell goods worth of 100 crore rupees, okay? But after coming into the scheme, this company now starts selling goods worth of 250 crore rupees. So will they get incentive for 250 crores worth of goods, or 150 crore worth of goods, which is in addition to what happened earlier? So this company will get benefits on the increased or incremental sale that it has achieved after enrolling the scheme. Earlier they used to manufacture goods worth of 100 crore, but after they enrolled into the scheme, they started manufacturing 250 crores worth of goods, which is an addition of 150 crore after the scheme. So this is how operational incentives work. Now you said option B, the scheme aims to increase local value addition from 15 to 20 to at least 75%. This obviously is incorrect. I told you it aims to increase by threefold, that is 30 to 40%, right? Both greenfield, brownfield investments are eligible. Yes, foreign companies can participate only by transferring the technology to an Indian firm. This is incorrect. I told you either by transferring or by forming a JV. So third and first incorrect, second is right, option B is the right answer. Yes, all of you have gotten this right. Yashi, I hope now it has become clear to you. Okay. Now, PLI scheme actually is a part of economy syllabus. Economy syllabus, we deal largely with how or what ways are with the Indian government to increase manufacturing in India, right? So PLI is one of the ways. We deal manufacturing sector in detail in the economy foundation classes. I take economy foundation classes, other teachers take other subjects, right? Now currently the batch of May evening batch has started right now. You can still take admissions to these batch. If you want to take admissions to these batch, what you need to do, go to our website. Once you go to the website, click on explore courses. Now here are the options in what kind of a language you want to take the teachings in. Suppose if you are not comfortable in Hindi and you want to take admissions in the English batch, perfectly fine. Click on UPSC IS English here, right? Once you click on that, click on the left hand tile and you can see here 40,999 is the amount of fees that you need to charge or you need to give for diamond batches. But let me tell you a way where you can get admissions even on an amount with discounted amount even on this item, right? What you need to do to apply a discount, click on buy now. Here there's a section to add promo code, right? Click on this one and right here on the left you need to write the code that is flashing on the bottom half of your screen now, ATS live, and click apply. Once you click apply, See, the discount of rupees 7,000 is applicable, and the diamond course is now available at 33,999. Similarly, platinum is at 29,999 and gold is at 19,999. So the best benefit or best option for you right now is diamond batch. Why am I saying so? You can get diamond at 33,999, but please do not forget to write this code ATS live. Only then you'll get the discount. Now, why I was saying diamond batch? Because if you can see from this slide, all the benefits of StudyIQ platform is available at diamond, whereas some, not all, are available in gold and platinum. So choose accordingly and take the admission if you want to study with us. Okay. Now moving back to our discussion. This is the next article that we are going to cover today, and it talks about that shingle vaccines have a lower dementia risk, and this is according to a study that was done in the country of South Korea, right? Now, a recent study from Wales and also from South Korea, which was published in the Lancet journal, it found that shingles vaccine is associated with a significantly lower risk of developing dementia, right? So, in that regard, what we should discuss, dementia, and what we should discuss, the disease of shingles, right? Now, first, let us discuss dementia. Dementia is a condition where you actually have a malfunction in your brain which lets you lose your memory, and sometimes even you have an impaired judgment. Now, the most common form of dementia that you see these days is an Alzheimer's disease, right? Now, there are currently no effective vaccines or cures that are there for most of dementias, and as the life expectancy of people living in India, it is increasing, so automatically we can assume as people get older, the chances of them having this kind of a dementia related disease increases, right? So therefore, the focus of Indian policymakers needs to increase, especially on these kind of neurological diseases. Now, let us come back to shingles. Shingles is a disease caused by varicella zoster virus, which is the same virus which causes chickenpox in you, right? Now, after chickenpox, the virus remains in a dormant forms in our nerve cells, and they can even reactivate later. The symptoms of shingles happening, it leads to painful rash in most, which is the most common symptom of shingles. Now, typically it appears in a form of stripe of blisters on one side of the body, usually in your torso region. Other symptoms, it may include itching, burning, or even tingling sensations even before the rashes of shingles appear, right? So this is the shingles disease, the symptoms of shingle disease, and it is caused by a virus known as varicella zoster virus, which also causes chickenpox in you. Now, coming to the transmission of this disease, what you need to remember, this shingles itself is not contagious, but this virus actually can spread to a person who hasn't had chickenpox yet, right? Now, this spread occurs actually via direct contact with the fluid from shingles blisters or even inhalation of the virus particles, right? So, in case the virus which may occur from shingles blisters, if you are in direct contact or even if you breathe through it, it may cause shingles, but in general, it is not as contagious as, for example, like chickenpox or any other virus related diseases, right? Now, certain complications also happen during the shingles virus. First is the post-therapeutic neuralgia, which is a persistent pain even after the rashes heals. And if shingles happen near your eyes, there's a case that it can even cause vision loss in the patients, right? Similarly, it may rarely lead to facial paralysis or brain inflammation, which is called as encephalitis, right? Now, let us talk about the people who are mostly affected by this shingles. Now, it is common in people with more than 50 years of age, and there is an increased risk with those who have weakened immune system, like people who are having cancer, organ transplant patients, or even people who have HIV. Similarly, the prevention of shingles best happens in cases of vaccines that are available. For example, Shingrix is one of the vaccines. It helps prevent reactivation of the virus, that is the chickenpox virus in you, and it is recommended especially for adults with more than 15 years of age or younger adults who have immunocompressed conditions. These are immunocompressed conditions, means you are existing have a disease, right? Similarly, antiviral medications are quite effective, like acyclovir, valasopreg, which shortens the duration, and pain management with analgesics, topical creams, and even nerve blocking medications can also be effective. But the most effective thing is the vaccine of shingles, and we are talking about that shingles vaccine are quite effective even in lowering the dementia. So this is an additional benefit. Please do remember these antiviral vaccines and also remember the vaccines of shingle, its particular name. Okay. Now let's see if you are able to solve the particular question. Well, first one is correct. Second one, highly contagious, no. It spreads easily through airborne transmission, no. Shingles commonly affects older adults and individuals with weak immune systems, correct. So second is incorrect, first and third are right. Option B is the right answer again. Now moving to the next article, this actually appeared in the Saturday's newspaper, but Saturday's newspaper had so many articles, so I had to leave that one out. I'll cover it today. Now it talks about a story of a sacred hill located in Jharkhand region, and it is a sacred hill which has caused friction between two communities, that is people from Jain community and the Santhali community. So in this regard, let us understand the reason why this article appeared in the newspaper. Now Jharkhand High Court has actually ordered a ban on liquor and meat sales on the Parasnath hills to respect the feelings and sentiments of people belonging to Jain religion. Now that actually made a complaints of violation that happened during the tribal festival, particularly the tribal festivals that see participation of people belonging to Santhal tribe, right? Now in this regard, let us understand few facts of Parasnath hill. Now it is a hill. The highest peak of this hill is in Jharkhand, that is in 1365 meters above sea level, and it is located in the Giridih district of Jharkhand. Right now, this is a sacred site for Jains, and it is also a holy place for this tribal community, that is Santhal community. Now, this hill is a part of Parasnath Wildlife Sanctuary, which is a protected area. So, these are the facts that you need to remember about Parasnath hills. Now, let us understand why this is so sacred for people belonging to Jain community. Now, this is one of their most sacred pilgrimage site known as Sri Sammet Shikharji. Also, it is believed to be a place where out of 24 Tirthankars of the Jaini religion, 20 of them have actually attained in moksha in this particular hill only, and this numerous Jain temples and shrines are present on the hill. Therefore, this hill is so much important for Jain community. Also, this is important for tribals, that is Santhal tribal, that they recognize Marangburu Great Mountain as a sacred site for their religious practices, and also the venue of their festival known as Sendra festival. Now, it conducts an annual festival and rituals at this site, and this site holds spiritual and cultural importance for the tribal community. That is why here what you need to remember, in tribal language, in Santhali language, it is called as Marangburu, and it holds a festival known as Sendra festival. So these are the facts that you need to remember. Now moving to the last article, this talks about that Gaya is now renamed as Gayaji, and demand from Bihar has also emerged to rename the capital of Bihar, that is Patna, to Patliputra. Right. So in this regard, let us understand how the namings of any particular region or city is actually changed. Now what we can understand, it is the Bihar government that has given its approval with a proposal to name city of Gaya as Gayaji due to its historical and religious significance, right? Now the constitution and legal provisions that allow you to change the names of any place, be it state or cities, let us understand this. First is Article 3 of the Indian Constitution, and this is with respect to the names of states and union territories, and here only the Parliament of India can alter the name, boundaries or even the area of state and union territory by a simple law which is required to be passed by majority of the members present in voting. Now it does not apply to renaming of cities and towns because it falls under the jurisdiction of the respective state governments. Why? Because entry 5 of the state list, which is a form of schedule 7th of the Indian Constitution, it states that state government have the power to alter the names of places, be it cities, towns and villages. So it is quite clear when it comes to states and union territories, the names, areas, boundaries, they can be changed only by the parliament. But when it comes to the names of cities, towns and villages, their area, name, boundaries, etc., they can be changed by which government? By state government. Now, there is also a long list of approval what you need to take before changing the name of the city. For example, as per the guidelines published by Ministry of Home Affairs, proposals of renaming a particular district or villages, this proposal needs to be sent to union government by state government, and the final approval, it comes from Ministry of Home Affairs after it consults with various departments and ministries of union government like Survey of India, Department of Post, Register General of India and Ministry of Railways. So therefore all of their consent and permission is needed, then only the Ministry of Home Affairs will actually allow the changes of the cities. But this change has to origin from the state government. Union government on its own can't change the name of cities, right? Now, in this regard, let us understand the important cities whose names have been changed. For example, Prayagraj, earlier it was called as Allahabad. Ayodhya, the district itself where Ayodhya temple or Ram Janmabhoomi is located, earlier it was called as Faizabad. Now it has been renamed as Ayodhya. Similarly, a very major town located quite close to Delhi, Gurgaon. Earlier it was called as Gurgaon. Now officially the name has been changed to Gurugram. Similarly, Mughal Sarai in UP, very close to Varanasi. Earlier it was called as Mughal Sarai. Now it has been called as Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Nagar. Why? Because Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay actually died on the railway station of Mughal Sarai. So this has been done and the respective state governments have highlighted, right? Now let's see if you are able to solve this last question of the day. Well, states have the constitutional power to propose changes in the names of cities under the state list of 7th schedule, correct? Final approval of renaming a city is granted by President of India under Article 3 of the Constitution, incorrect. I have told you this final approval is given by MHA as per the guidelines that it has gotten, not by the way of Constitution, right? So, only option A is correct. So, this brings our end to our today's session. There is one more article that I wanted to cover today that was relating to the AGR issue of Vodafone India, but that article has a big discussion. We'll cover it tomorrow, right? So this is the place where the notes will be available, ATS Live, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 4. Please have a very good evening and a good night, right?